Mushrooms on toast has got to be one of my favourite brunch dishes, and today I'm making it from scratch. In my book, it doesn't get much better than baking your own bread and sauteing your own mushrooms. Oh, and to cap it all off, I'm going to poach a couple of eggs. Delicious. Want to know how I do it? Let's dive in. I'll start this off early, aiming for late morning to serve, brunch in other words. Baking a bloomer is a great bread for this dish, but you can use sourdough as well. As with a lot of things, I'm still mastering and building up my knowledge with bread, and a bloomer bread is a yeasted bread. For sure, this is convenient and quicker. On this channel, I've made this bloomer before. I will link it to the card above later so you can check out the full recipe. As with most things, I developed and tweaked the recipe, and as now I've made quite a few of these, it's definitely something I've got better at. This is using 4 ingredients: flour, salt, water, and yeast. I measure everything out. This is a 600 gram loaf, and for the water I'm going to use a lukewarm temperature to kickstart the fermentation, as my kitchen was around 17 degrees and a bit cooler. I'm using a strong Canadian white bread flour from Shipton Mill in the UK. Once the water is measured, I pour around a quarter in a separate jug and add in my yeast. Leave this for a couple of minutes and then you should see some foaming, which is an indication that yeast is alive and active. I always check the expiry date, as yeast doesn't last forever, so check its in date. Now pour your water and the yeasty mixture into a flour and salt, incorporate the 4 ingredients together and to get all of them roughly mixed. Whenever I'm at this stage, I leave my dough for a while so the flour can be hydrated by the water. As I'm wanting to get a bit of a move on today, I leave this for 15 minutes, which should make a big enough difference when I come back to it. Now, when I'm touching it, it's a bit sticky, but really importantly, the flour feels far more hydrated. To build structure and gluten development, I'm going to give this a good knead. Don't add any more flour at this point. It's a rookie error to think, oh, my dough's a bit wet and sticky, let's add more flour. But as you're kneading it, you're going to feel and see a noticeable difference in the dough. As you get a bit more experience, you'll find your own way of kneading dough. I like to mix my technique up by using one hand, 2 hands, stretching it back and forth. All of these movements and what you're putting the dough through will help build strength and elasticity. Once you've been going around for 10 minutes and you feel the dough has developed a good structure, you can put this back in the bowl and cover with a plastic bag. Leave this in a warm place for its first proof. This has been sitting here for 2 hours and it's doubled in size, looking really airy. I don't want to knock all of that air out, so I'm going to handle this quite gently and fold it over a couple of times. Then flatten it down a little bit, starting with the furthest edge away from you. Roll the dough on itself, pushing it down slightly to keep tension, and then tucking in those edges to form that classic bloomer shape. I haven't used any flour up until this point, but now I'm going to use some rice flour on my board to prevent any sticking for that second proof. Exactly the same again. Cover up with a rustic bag. Really importantly, don't allow that bag to touch the dough and then leave it alone again. As this dough is pretty active, this only takes 45 minutes and I'm ready to bake. I'm checking it regularly to see how it's developing. The dough springs back when touched and I have my oven preheated to a 240 degree setting. With a sharp razor, score this dough, pop it in, spray liberally with water and let it bake. I am happy with this bake, lovely crust on there, a nice texture on the inside, perfect served with earthy mushrooms. I have some wild mushrooms here like oyster and shiitake, and some classic field mushrooms. These have so much flavour when you cook them well. I always take a little bit of time to prepare my mushrooms to ensure any grit or dirt is removed. Whatever you do, don't wash them. They're like sponges, so it's not a good idea. As long as you can check through them, you'll be fine. Cut these up, no particular way, just try to make sure they're all the same size so they cook evenly in the pan. Get a hot pan on the go. I start with the field mushrooms as they're slightly chunkier. Keep your heat high. There's actually quite a lot of water in the mushrooms, so searing them on a high heat will ensure that you do this well. Whilst that is happening, I get a griddle pan on the go and toast my bloomer. Add in some butter, seasoning, also some dry mixed herbs. You could add a dash of olive oil and rub a clove of smashed up garlic on the bread before you toast to impart maximum flavour if you'd like. And of course, a couple of poached eggs. I add in some vinegar, not entirely necessary if your eggs are super fresh, but dropping them in a pan with a bit of depth will give you a nice shape. For freshness, I sprinkle a load of chopped parsley on the mushrooms at the end and serve. Got to love this dish. Hopefully this video shows how amazing a simple dish like mushrooms and toast can be. I definitely believe baking your own bread and sauteing your own mushrooms, a bit of parsley at the end, and your own poached eggs really helps take this to the next level. I've now cooked this and I'm really hungry, so I'm going to dive in for my taste test. Wow, so tasty. Some beautiful, robust, earthy flavours in this dish. I love how simple it is, and you know what, having a bloomer bread, quite thick and chunky, and this just makes it so lovely and so rustic. The mushrooms, beautifully seasoned, bit of parsley at the end, I think that's good because it brings a little bit of freshness. For me, this is a really nice brunch dish, or you could serve it as a start as well. If you did enjoy this video, you'd probably like my potato pancakes from last week, which make a beautiful brunch dish. I served that with streaky bacon and poached eggs. I'm going to put a link up here so you can check that video after this. Thanks a lot for watching, really appreciate your support, and I will catch you next time.